3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective in what is, I guess, our last ever 2020 episode. Now, if you're watching this in Australia, please let us know what's 2021 turning out like. Please don't tell me there's like an Armageddon situation taking place. But in all seriousness, 2020 was not that bad. I mean, we are still living in a fantastic civilization. We've got technology and ideas that did not grow on trees, so to speak. Some very, very brave people before us and during our time focused, and they were willing to take bold steps. And they looked at the world and they said, not bad, but I'll make it better. And to them, we are thankful. Also, here on the Ayn Rand Center UK, we're thankful to our leadership, Razi behind the scenes, Nikos in front of the scenes. They've turned this channel and this enterprise into something that is quite nice. They make quite a team. The two of them. You know, Ben Shapiro says we need Athens and Jerusalem, and I say, careful what you wish for, Ben. Now, we're going to talk about, I guess, kind of New Year's vibes and what we're hoping to see next year and all that good stuff. Also, today is a ask me anything, ask me almost anything. You want Mark's social security number. I guess we'll ask him if he's open to sharing that. But ask us something, and super chat people get priority. So there's a nice way for you to make it rain a bit. Since I'm guessing you're not going to be at the nightclub tonight. Buying $1,000 bottles of champagne in the VIP, given the lockdown situation. I want to read a very, very short excerpt from The Dim Hypothesis. Now, this is a book. It's definitely a must read, but read it with caution. Please proceed with caution. This is very serious stuff. Philosophy is heavy equipment, and this book could be very empowering. It could be empowering for you, or it could lead you down a very fatalistic, rationalistic path of destruction. And we've seen both. So be very careful with philosophy. It is heavy equipment. So Leonard Peikoff is talking about ancient Greece, and he's calling it saying they have the I mode, the letter I, as in integration. So he is pointing out that ancient Greece they were integrated. They sought to tie everything together. And Peikoff said, since virtually nothing is known about the cause of the I mode's first rise, we can say only that Greece was an I culture, and the most philosophical one in Western history. And then at the end of the section, he gives us a bit of a symbolic metaphor, allegory. He says, a child creates a painting of unsurpassed beauty. In judging it, his age is irrelevant, but he is a child. So one expects him sooner or later to lapse into childishness. So the child here being analogous to ancient Greece. So if a child were to spontaneously draw a magnificent painting that is magnificent even by the standards of an adult, we can't exactly explain how he did it or why or what caused it. And we don't really expect it to happen spontaneously again. But nonetheless, it happened. And ancient Greece was that. They did something magnificent and unexpected. And now it's on us to identify what made Greece so special and hold on to that. So also, when we look at something like the Ayn Rand Center UK and the Daily Objective, and we're wondering, how did this happen? Something so magnificent. Where did this come from? What caused this miracle? You can just say, look, it happened. That's the important thing. And now we just need to hold on to it and keep it moving. Speaking of Greeks and whatnot, I'm going to introduce the co-host now. Thank you, Mary Ellen, for the super chat. Happy New Year to you too. And all right, I guess we'll go in the order of proximity to myself. Here in California, we've got a guy who, this is a guy who, when he was invited to participate on the Daily Objective, he said, it's a speaking role? And the answer was yes. Actor, philosophy connoisseur, Mark Pellegrino. How you doing?
What's up, man? Doing okay.
You got any quick thoughts just about, Happy New Year and what you're thinking about the past and the future?
I'm gonna reserve them for the main comments. I'll wait till after you get to everybody.
Okay. Now, Jonathan Hoenig. Now, this is a guy, he grew up in Chicago. He definitely a life of crime was sort of the fate he was destined for. That was the life handed to him. That's all they do over there, as my understanding. But Jonathan said, no, thank you. I will use my mind and I will deal with money. And that's exactly what he's done. It's Jonathan Hoenig.
Thank you, Rucka. And I have some comments I'll reserve too for our main discussion, but I want to just quickly say thank you to our subscribers, all of the viewers, our super chatters like Mary-Eileen and so many others, the Prometheus Foundation for their generous support. Look, it's been a tough year for many of us, but this has been a landmark year for the Ayn Rand Center UK. We've built a tremendous community in the United Kingdom, in Europe, online. We've innovated and we've thrived, and it's been all about making these connections and building this community with the right ideas. So we'll get into it more, but I'll raise a glass to a difficult year and ring in 2021 and thank y'all, my co-hosts, for making this such a pleasurable and a profitable in every way exercise throughout the week.
Very nice. And now we have a guy who, when speaking of Greeks that sort of come out of nowhere and suddenly in light speed amount of time suddenly seem to be so advanced. This is a guy who, I don't know, 3 months ago or something was a card-carrying Marxist. I don't know how long ago it was. It was not that long ago. Mm-hmm. But here he is. He's not only a student of objectivism, but he's helping teach it in a very responsible environment that the center is providing. So looking forward to seeing what's next from him. I mean, in like 7 days from now, he could be the next Leonard Peikoff. So I'm looking forward to reading what he publishes.
Yeah, not happening. But
Nikos, hold on. Nikos Sotirakopoulos. Go ahead.
Well, finally got it.
Exactly.
Well, not really, yes. But because it's let's have a positive vibe. Yeah. So last day of the year, usually I get in an introspective mode, and what I do is I text or email people who have been of value to me for this, who have added value to my life this year, and I tell them something like thank you and the reason why I thank them. So I don't want to be cheesy on air. Razi knows that this also applies to him. This also applies to you and our audience and people who support us materially, but also give the moral or the material sanction. And when it comes to a wish, my wish for 2021 would be first and foremost that this time next year, we're all here or somewhere there and we're all good, healthy and happy. So that's a good enough, because if this is the case, we are all capable human beings and we're going to make it happen. As long as we are around, healthy and happy, everything else is easy.
That was beautiful. Now, so this is an Ask Me Almost Anything episode. If anyone who's watching this live wants to, okay, already we got Daniel asking, thank you for the super chat. He says, Happy New Year, everyone. Do you have any New Year's resolutions? Uh-oh, this is a big one. You look shocked, Nikos. Do you have something ready to go, or should we come back to you later?
If it's, I don't know who Daniel is, but if it's my accountability partner, Daniel, our accountability partnership goes on in 2021. Yeah, I have something which has to do with my public speaking skills, but I'm going to keep it to myself because I want the audience to just see the results and not the process, because who cares about the process? What matters is the result.
Well, your speaking skills are pretty great, but I don't know if you know this. You have an accent. Maybe if you want to look into, I don't know, getting rid of that.
I'm not giving up my accent. No.
All right. We'll deal with it.
No, Mark, it's us that has the accent. He doesn't have the accent.
True. They were here first. Mark, any resolutions and or thoughts?
Hey, my life is one ongoing New Year's resolution. I feel like I'm a work in progress all the time. So. I just want to get through. I have a surgery coming up on the 6th. I want to make sure I get through that okay. I've got a job coming up starting in March. I got to be healed up for. So I'm hoping just to get through my projects unscathed at the moment.
Yeah, that's a pretty good resolution. Jonathan?
Yeah, man. And I'll just mention we've got Ala Noor, who is on our super chat on our YouTube stream from the West Bank. One of my tuning from the West Bank, kind of shows the universality of these ideas we're talking about and how they're reaching audiences all over the world. That's definitely one of my resolutions in 2021, is to come out to the United Kingdom and meet so many of our viewers, so many of our supporters, so many of our super chatters in person. I traveled to the UK with my textbook of Americanism a couple years ago, and just was so impressed with the vibrancy and the excitement. And I remember over the years, Dr. Peikoff has been asked a bit about this. I don't know, the kind of the British educational system vis-a-vis the US, less dewy as I understand it in the United Kingdom, but there's really something happening there. So my resolutions are get back on the horse when it comes to exercise. You know, I did cardio every day basically for 10 years up until this hit. And then my gym closed. That's one, but definitely travel the United Kingdom, travel the world, and meet so many of the people I knew who've been inspired by the Ayn Rand Center UK, and so many of them who support us every week here on the Super Chat.
By the
Very
way,
nice.
Jonathan, let me know if you want a good resistance body weight home training, because that was an epiphany. I don't think I'm ever going to need a gym again after 2020. I mean, you have a kettlebell, you have somewhere to do pull-ups anywhere around, and you do body weight exercise, high intensity intervals. You don't need anything else. So don't be discouraged by the gym situation. Drop me an email and we can discuss it. And yeah, it's gonna.
Yeah, this is true. I went to the gym all the time before, and I got this little apparatus called the rack that enables me to do all kinds of high intensity body working out. And there's a program that goes along with it that you could follow just for structure. And I'm back in better shape than I've been in a long time. So I don't need the gym.
Yeah, or you can do the Murph. You run, you do high intensity intervals or body weight, and then you run again. There's so many things. You can do.
Yeah, this is great stuff. I also don't have a gym membership. I've got equipment at home. Yeah, Nikos wanted to train me, but when he told me to come over in a leotard, I had some questions first. I guess my New Year's resolution.
Rucka, always say yes. Just always say yes.
Yes, man. Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to, be creative and produce a lot of content. I'm feeling optimistic about this year. Like, I think we've got a good year ahead of us in various ways. Also, I've been learning about like marketing and merchandising and advertising and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about that, and hopefully making some gosh darn money, because hey, it's tough out there. All right. Any other questions in the chat room? Feel free to speak up. We got Alia Nor from the West Bank. Well, that's pretty cool. You know, it's not inconceivable that the sort of renaissance of individualism could be in the Palestinian territories. I mean, it's very difficult to imagine, but they're tired, right? They're tired of their leadership, and it would not be that impossible for a sort of secular voice to start speaking up there in a way that kind of urges the Israelis and other Westerners, saying, "Hey, get these leaders out of here, or we're going to do it ourselves." And speaking in terms of individual rights, speaking with moral certainty, it's not impossible. And wouldn't that be a beautiful thing?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Although, and I wish I shared a lot of your optimism for 2021, Rucka. I'll just say, first of all, for anyone doing any shopping, definitely got to check out Rucka's online store. Got my Christmas gift. I ordered a little late, came on time, but a great merchandise at Rucka's store. I'll just say for me, Rucka, I was looking back on 2020. I mean, I'm a little tired. For me as a money manager, as an investor who invests all around the world, this was a pretty stressful year. Interesting stat, 8 of the top 10 daily point losses for the Dow in history, 8 out of 10 came this year. 9 out of 10 of the top daily point gains came this year. So this was a pretty crazy year for the market, for the economy, for many of us, and just the kind of our disruptions to daily life. This was a year I felt like there was this tremendous need for us all to be walled off from each other physically. And my takeaway is that when we're walled off from each other, we're worse as a result. We're individualists. We always talk about individualism, but don't buy into that stereotype of an individualist means that you do everything alone or you don't have any contact. That's the whole thing about when you say, "Oh, I'm an Ayn Rand, I'm an individualist." Oh, well, you need other people this, you want other people that. And it doesn't mean you live alone. We value our interconnectedness with other people in so many ways. That's one of my takeaways, I'll just say, from 2020. I remember Dr. Peikoff many times talking about how the universe is an interconnected whole, and seeing the importance of those relationships. Yes, how the virus can spread through those relationships. I guess that's kind of the downside, but also how so much wealth and value can spread. through trade. You know, the shutdowns all over the world affected us. Well, I know you in the UK, certainly us in the US in terms of those trade relationships. The tariffs hit us very hard, but also the trade relationships kept us so well stocked. Amazon, and one I'll share too. I don't know if you guys caught this about a very famous Briton, a man by the name of Elton John. I didn't know this, but Elton John happens to be a recovering alcoholic. And he said, I don't know if you can see this. Am I sharing the right screen? Elton John has been attending Zoom meetings on AA, he's been attending AA meetings on Zoom. And he says that Zoom has been a lifesaver for him. He wouldn't know what he'd have done without it. It's been a lifesaver. So, you know, when we think about the value of trade and the value that Zoom, which was created by an immigrant to America, at least, let's not lose sight in a year when we had to wall each other off. That the real value is our relationships, our sharing of knowledge, our sharing of trade. To me, that's what objectivism really celebrates. Not living life alone as individualist, but living your own best life truly and trading with other people along the way.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of trade, if anyone wants a really cool shirt, this is from the Jonathan Hoenig enterprise, Capitalist Pig. I believe capitalistpig.com is where you might get this.
You got it. And Rucka's Knuckles forever.
For life.
For life.
I still run red lights. Yeah, I mean, this is a very, 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 very positive day, feels like. So we're making it a positive new year already. By the way, people watching this live, there's even more people watching than usual. So please, in the chat room, give us some questions. We'd love some stuff to tell you about. Now, Mark, the showbiz is one of the few exports America still sends around the world. How's Hollywood doing these days? Is it sort of on lockdown, or are they sort of finding a way to make it work? Are we going to see more shows like Web Therapy, which is all shot with Skype? What do you think?
Really? No. I know that it was one of the few industries that they allowed to be open here in California, even though everyone else was locked down. I think they've since rechecked that policy, and they're starting to close down some productions here in California. But as far as I know, production is going on in other parts of the country and up north in Vancouver, and Hollywood will proceed. I mean, I think the one thing that's great about Hollywood is it seems to be, knock on wood, immune to most disasters, financial and otherwise. We seem to turn to it for a release and escape from the craziness of everyday life. So I'm fortunate to be part of an industry that keeps on keeping on regardless of the external circumstances. So I'm supposed to go back to work in March, in the beginning of March, in another state. And hopefully the people who are working here in California will be able to say the same. Maybe they'll recall Gavin Newsom and some of this madness over here in California will end.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing what California has in its future. It's getting weird. People are leaving California that you would have never expected. Anyway, hey, all I can do is sit back and watch, I guess.
Well, I think the new Gulch is Austin, Texas, from what I'm hearing from all the migrants.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I guess if I was to leave California, Texas probably would be the next place to go because it's both kind of economically free, and also has like a really good sort of attitude, I guess, sense of life, if I can use that phrase. I've always liked Texas. I probably would not be crazy about the sort of Trump enthusiasm and stuff like that. But now that we've got a Democrat entering the White House, I imagine Republicans will start to kind of rediscover capitalism and the free market and start to speak in those terms, which means that our friend Jonathan Hoenig should be back on TV often again soon, now that Fox News is ready to embrace capitalism again. Wouldn't that be nice, Jonathan?
I mean, I don't know. It seems like one of the things we saw this year is, despite the fact that Ayn Rand's works have never been so popular, I mean, that's a positive of a lot of work that the Ayn Rand Center UK and others are doing. I mean, there's never been a bigger percentage of Ayn Rand's books sold outside the United States than ever before. So, the ideas are spreading, but it seems like the voices for capitalism, the voices for individualism are getting kind of smaller and smaller on the world stage. I mean, Nikos, you travel the world certainly more than I do, and probably Razi and Rucka have, Mark have this year. Do you see? I see vibrant voices for individualism in the United Kingdom, in Israel. what's the scene in Greece, for example? Are there any voices for individualism growing politically around there?
Yeah, in Greece, not so much as a movement, but one of my best memories this year was the Ayn Rand Conference Europe in Warsaw, and it was the biggest objectivist event in Europe as far as I know. So yeah, but the most important thing for me is to not only in terms of, so I measure success in terms of how many people's actual personal lives change, so to speak. So that's what gives me more fulfillment. But because I'm very passionate about politics, yeah, I would want to see also a more vibrant movement. So this was the year where, for me, the biggest impact was, because it was a difficult year, people saying that through objectivism or through this or that other objectivist organization, I kept my sanity or I kept a foothold on reality. So in terms of what happened this year, this is what I would consider the biggest success. Let's hope that in future years, this is going to materialize also in terms of movements out there being very vocal. And again, Mark knows this. I'm a big believer in politics, way beyond where the average, not in a bad way, objectivism is. And I would love to see someone charismatic like Mark getting after it in politics. That would be something that I think it is, the environment is ripe enough, because what's the alternative? Biden or Ted Cruz? Is that the alternative, or what's I think it definitely can happen. It definitely can happen. I remember I took this with massive pinches of salt. Tony Robbins once said, I could predict who's going to win the elections merely by the vibes that he gives to the audience. Now, of course, yeah, take this with a pinch of salt. But imagine someone who knows what he's standing for versus Kamala Harris, or versus Marco Rubio, or versus these kind of people. So maybe not 2021, but I definitely expect to see an objectivist movement vibrant also in politics.
I don't know. I mean, yes and no. How's that for an answer? Yes and no. I definitely would hope to see us move towards free market, but like someone getting up there saying that Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid need to go would be very unelectable in today's world. Yeah,
but you wouldn't start with that. You would start with your life is yours. I don't want to tell you what to do. I know that when you sit in front of TV, what you expect is someone to tell you whether you're allowed to visit your grandma. I'm here to tell you that it's up to you what your decision will be. What's more radical for 2021? I think this would give waves of enthusiasm and enthusiasm in a genuine way. People say, oh, someone tells me I can live my life. I'm responsible for my life. 80% of people are going to freak out. 20% of people are going to be, wow, never thought of this before.
I would like to see that as well. I just, by the time someone who's remotely electable is speaking in those terms, I think the culture will already be saying it more often.
Can I just say...
Sorry. Let me correct something. 20% is not going to say, I never thought of this before. 20% are going to say, oh, I never realized that I was thinking this all the time, but no one put it into words. Sorry, Jonathan.
No, and I don't mean to interrupt. I just I don't think our benchmark should be, can we get an objectivist prime minister in the UK, or an objectivist or have them hold up Atlas Shrugged. To me, I'm more selfish like that. My objective is to really live a wonderful life for myself. And so I don't think we should put it on our own, put that burden on us that we're winning. For me, I think, as you said, Nikos, you alluded to, I mean, our benchmark should be getting people to discover these ideas, to live a better life for them, to enjoy their life more. If you live your life in politics, and this was a year when we really had to, the presidential election in the United States really kind of mandated that. But, for me, my discovery of objectivism has not been about, understanding politics more. I think a lot of the traditional kind of right-leaning, free market politicians could probably do that. It's been more about enjoying my life more, living my life more, living it more passionately. And I know I'm coming out of COVID with even more of an enthusiasm for that. So don't live your life in politics. I think that's a great lesson of 2020. And there's so much more to Ayn Rand beyond politics that we should be discovering and exploring in 2021.
Sure, but it's a field that inspires a lot of passion to people. So why not be there as well?
I agree.
Since we have the people.
On one hand, we don't agree. I mean, we don't disagree in one respect, and in another respect, we do disagree. I think I'm saying by the time a person is able to be on the debate stage who speaks in these terms, people like Yaron Brook are up there with, like, Rush Limbaugh. See what I'm saying? Like, first you have people speaking in those terms, not on a debate stage, but they're just saying.
You have like young people excited about it. As it's often been said, we get the politicians we deserve, and what we're doing is, some of these young, I think Daniel, a lot of our supporters are young people. They're going to be the next politicians. They're going to influence that next generation. That's the future, not today's politicians. They're old news.
Now, Mary Aline in the chat room asks, is it too soon to have an objectivist political impact? And thank you for the super chat. Is it too soon to have political impact?
I mean,
much
too late. Not it's too soon, but let's hear.
Too much. Yeah, too soon. Sorry. Wait, sorry.
Let's hear from the man who is actually trying to make it happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming you mean me because I started a political party called the American Capitalist Party. You guys can visit the website, check out the platform, and look, I just re-registered to vote under the American Capitalist Party moniker. So, I mean, I think that what Nikos wants is a realizable dream in local constituencies. I think there are particular states where this kind of message would have a really strong impact, and you have to start from there. Does that mean we're ready for someone to take a national office by storm, like the presidency? Hey, I think a billionaire can change anything, right? A self-funded billionaire can get up there and put these ideas in front of people and really change, really make an impact for the better. I don't anticipate that's going to happen. The billionaires that are out there now seem to be sort of infected by the same psychological and cognitive virus that the politicians are infected with. But I think what Nikos wants is very doable on the local stage. There's probably about 7 or 8 states I can think of where you could probably place American Capitalist Party folks in there. And look, because it's true, because the ideas are unassailable, and because the opposition is so weak, once they have a stage like that, it's done. I mean, it's not going to be, those people fight dirty and they find all kinds of ways to discredit you, but the ideas themselves will be so powerful that they're going to spread, I think, much faster than the lies and the untruths have spread. Look, it's taken 125 years or so for these ideas to saturate the world, and they've done so basically by force, right? They monopolized academia, and then they've used the institutions of government to entrench themselves. Well, putting one of our guys up there in the top notch to battle head to head with some of these folks, they're done. They're done. It'll be the open forum of ideas, and they can't last there.
Yeah, there's a super chat from Kevin. And if we want to address.
Well, yeah, I just want to kind of give a thought on this topic before we get to Kevin. Just the word local just now really struck me. That's right. I tend to think of federal politics and the presidency as like the beginning and the end of politics. But yeah, the truth is local politics is some of the most impactful stuff that takes place. Some of the biggest rights violators, some of the most annoying bureaucrats, and so the good and the bad all often takes place at a local level. And if the Capitalist Party or something like it could get a foothold, let's say in a county next to Austin, Texas, for instance, and it shows, and people see that, they go, oh wow, well, these guys are making noise and they're making sense and it's working. It could absolutely spread up to the larger state level, and of course, finally, the federal government and the world. So yeah, the word start local, go global. I just
want to say, I know we want to get to a super chat question, but I just wanted to say, I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind. Go ahead.
Okay. But by the way, real quick, thank you, Ragnar in the Desert, for the very generous super chat. He says, reason, purpose, and self-esteem in 2021. Now, Ragnar, that was not a question, so we'll have to refund that. I'm sorry. I'm joking.
Thank you.
But over to Kevin with the European or British money, whatever you call that symbol over there. with thank you for the super chat. He says, any suggestions on how to debate someone that says, quote, I've read everything by Ayn Rand and she's wrong. And then the person goes on to show they are misunderstanding Ayn Rand. What do you guys think?
Well, isn't that the argument right there? He has it in a nutshell. The person makes an assertion, it's false. You just show them where they're misled, right? Does anybody else have any better? Nikos, as the academic, do you have any other solutions?
Well, as an academic, the only time I've met someone who knew Ayn Rand was someone who was critiquing her, and we were out in a pub, and says, "Look, don't take this the wrong way. I want you just to talk to me because I never realized that I would meet a Randian. I thought you people were so she considered as this weird sect of weirdos. It's like I can't believe I met someone." By the way, 5-10 minutes in the discussion, it's very interesting that you realize that once you start asking the serious questions, so, okay, what's your disagreement, for example? Is it in the level of metaphysics? Do you believe, for example, there are 8 realities or 26 realities? Oh, no, of course. Oh, is it in the level of epistemology then? Do we get reality with our guts? Do we get it by smelling our fingertips, as the phrase goes in Greece? How do we get into contact with reality? Oh, no, of course. Yes, I get that. So, but the most important thing here, and it's something that good communicators like Don Watkins always emphasize. Don't try to score points. So my mistake maybe with that discussion is I delivered the party line and I quote one. The important thing is try to bridge context. Try to see where they're coming from. What do they have on the back of their head? And see, is there any space for communication? If this is a one-on-one debate, okay, if it's a debate in front of an audience, and this is a lesson I've learned from Yaron Brook, you don't debate the person sitting beside you. Basically, you communicate to the audience. But if it's a one-on-one, don't try to win the argument. Try to see where they're coming from. Why did that person read Ayn Rand? Is it because, for example, they're passionate Marxists and they want to debunk her? But then why did they read more and more stuff? Maybe that person is intellectually curious, or maybe that person saw something that grasped them. Initially, when I cheated on Marxism with sinful ideas, I tried to rationalize to myself, say, oh, there's something there, but of course I don't like it. But in a way, it's like you fall in love with a person you shouldn't be falling in love. You try to tell yourself, oh, I'm going to keep away, but you can't. So see where these people are coming from, see what is the context, and try to bridge this context with your context in a way. So try to change the frame so that you see what exactly this person is looking for. Why, for example, that person feels so passionately to debunk Ayn Rand. Has this person got bad premises, or is it that he or she is trying to persuade themselves that they don't like Rand, whereas they do like it? Anyway, I've never thought of it analytically, but on the top of my head, that would be my advice.
Yeah, go ahead, Ruck. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, so I mean, my approach is first to say, well, debating is overrated. You know, how many minds have been changed by debating somebody? It's rare. I mean, I would mostly ask them kind of Socratically, like kind of what matters to you. Let's say I know something about them. Let's say they, I was once in the home of somebody many years ago when I was very young, an inventor. This guy, he invented some kind of thing that he was hoping would make him a lot of money. But looking at his books, he had books from all walks of life, the Mormon Bible to this type of literature, that like just everything. And I asked him, oh, do you have any Ayn Rand? He said, no, she is not allowed in my house. She's not allowed in the house. She is a seductive writer, he said. She's seductive. So he was obviously very much antithetic. So I was much younger. So I was not used to meeting anyone who hated Rand so much. And I thought about it later, and I wish I had asked him, so you're an inventor, right? And he would have said, yeah. And I would have asked, does your invention belong to you or to society, right? Like that, I think that's where I would start with him. So you got to reach for people's values and kind of ask them, well, what matters to you? And then you kind of start from there. You know, values are such a big part of philosophy for a reason.
Yeah, and I'll just say briefly, when people say to me, I've read everything by Ayn Rand, I stop listening because they're bullshitting you. I've been interested in Ayn Rand for over 20 years, and I haven't read everything by Ayn Rand. And there's so much to read by Ayn Rand. I mean, you know, books. This is a book by Robert Mayhew about Atlas Shrugged. There's just so much. The Objectivists, the dim hypothesis. There's just so much to explore. So when someone says I've read everything by Ayn Rand, it usually means that they saw some meme and they said, "Oh, Ayn Rand is for selfishness, so I'm against selfishness." So, and I'm kind of like you, I think, Rucka. I don't debate. I kind of feel like I'm done debating, and maybe I did that when I was younger, but I live my life. I succeed and thrive. And I credit Ayn Rand often, and I encourage people to check her out as I did. So I just feel like I'm done debating, and especially when people, as I think Daniel asks, you know, they say, "Oh, I read everything by Ayn Rand." Bullshit.
And
Shenanigans.
Nikos, you're I wouldn't call you a pickup artist, but you're familiar with that whole world, that whole philosophy that people have of how to bring people closer to you without scaring them away, right? And are women drawn to men who convince them to be attracted to him, or is it by?
You are opening a can of worms, which the worms are the size of Godzilla. So the short answer I would say is yes, but let's not get there.
Yes, that women are attracted to guys that persuade them with arguments.
I am attracted to guys who is persuaded them. Of course, everyone is attracted to. So look, we live in a world where many people. You have the stereotype that, hey, you know what to do with life. You can't do that much. Love me for my flaws. This kind of stuff. This is the BS kind of rom-com kind of stuff. And here comes someone who says, look, I have strong beliefs for these reasons, and I have an aim in my life, which is I know why I'm after it. Do you remember that scene in? Anyway, it's a big spoiler in Atlas Shrugged. I'm not going to mention. So it has nothing to do with men or women. It's so charming seeing someone who is after values passionately and who takes ideas seriously and who takes life seriously. I want to be in the aura of these people. So of course it's seductive.
Okay, and Razi in the chat, in our private chat room, says, I don't think Nikos got what Rucka was asking. So the Lord Emperor has spoken. The false dichotomies are strong with this one, I will say. My question was,
what were you asking actually?
My question is, if you can't convince a person to find you attractive, you can't use logic. I know you Greeks love your logic, to quote the movie 300. You know, you Greeks love your logic. You take pride in your logic. I suggest using it. All right, I'm being a little bit combative. It's the end of the year. It's been a rough one. You can't persuade someone to find you attractive, but I think when you are the person, when you are the guy, people are drawn. That's exactly the point I'm making. So that's my point, is you can't debate your way into convincing someone that objectivism holds true. They need to really be interested in having what you have. They want to look at you.
Exactly, but also you lead by example.
That's what I'm saying.
They say, how can I get that jacket? Oh, how can I be that stylish? Objectivism. I want to mention briefly, Joe, thank you for the very generous super chat as well. Thank you for all of our super chats. Joe has a comment, which I'll share, was from a couple minutes ago. Joe says, I think people, the culture or whatever, need to already want and be trying to live independent and fulfilling lives before they want politics that allow them to do so. Education is the first battle. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Joe, as well. And thank you for the support.
Education is the final stage. It's the final boss, and it's hence really the first one, because the final boss is the one who sends all the little henchmen out to fight Sonic or Mario, right? It's ultimately about the final boss.
This will be the decade. This would be the decade I predict. The biggest battle maybe of the decade is what's going to be the Uber that's going to disrupt universities. That should be our appeal to people with a lot of money. Come up with a plan, and because this is going to be huge. I'm dreaming of bootcamp style 6-month degrees where you have to work 12 hours every day and nothing is given to you, and you have to work really hard. But after that, you're ready for persuasion, for marketing, or writing, speaking, this kind of stuff. And it's so good to see the big objectivist institutions already running these things in-house, quote, universities. But that's a dream I have for for this decade.
Well, I think if anything, the crisis and the lockdowns have shown us that centralization does not work, and people are starting to look to federalism again, to the independence of the states, to alternatives to state-run education, and technology is also stepping up to meet those needs. So we're seeing how the creation of dependency on the government and centralized forces has been so damaging and made us inflexible and unable to innovate, and how releasing ourselves from those chains has created, a vaccine in record time. It was all about taking off the chains of government. So I think people can start to see that autonomy is a real thing. Autonomy is something that really, really helps us in every aspect of our lives. I hope that's what we take away from this insanity, is that we take the Kamala Harrises and the Joe Bidens of the world as seriously as they deserve to be taken, which is not at all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think we're close to that.
absolutely. And also, thank you, Marcelina, the very pretty name, very pretty kind of dollar sign you have next to that super chat. Thank you for that. And of course, thank you, Christopher, for the American super chat. I know that type of money. Oh, trust me, I know that money. Yeah. So this is, about Uber versus, the Uber being the sort of disruptor and the taxi industry being the universities, I think, in this metaphor. It's a good question. Don't let me discourage you. Obviously, what we're doing here, it's like we're doing it for fun, but it would be like probably Nikos is hoping it really, really becomes a force to be reckoned with in the culture. And I'm certainly not opposed to that. I just know that universities exist for a reason. There's the fact that not anybody could enter it. I see it sort of as analogous to alternative news versus legacy media. Yes, there's a lot wrong with legacy media. Believe me, I don't trust fake news, CNN. But, you see what alternative news brings us. It brings us almost exclusively BS. Alex Jones and other lunatics are treated like actual journalists, and rational people have nowhere left to turn. So don't give up on legacy academia is my message.
How about this for a curriculum? First hour, communication. Second hour, marketing. Third hour, philosophy. Fourth hour, social skills. Fifth hour, self-defense. Who wouldn't sign up to that? Seriously.
I would.
Well, I'll just say I can't. First of all, thank you to Marcy, who been a follower of mine for a long time. I've probably a new interest in objectivism, and that's awesome. I don't think there's any reason that objectivism cannot be the hottest. It is the hottest, the most revolutionary. I mean, people think they're being kind of different with the UBI, all these ideas. I mean, objectivism really is the radical philosophy. I don't think there's any reason that it can't be 1,000 times more influential than Jordan Peterson was in the last few years. And we're doing it, I think, guys, with the Ayn Rand Center UK. We're that disruption because that's where it's happening. It's happening, quote, in the streets, online here. It happens when you share the Ayn Rand Center UK's videos, when you support us. I was a philosophy minor at Northwestern University, pretty good university here in the United States. We never got Ayn Rand. We were never given Ayn Rand. We read Hobbes, we read Plato, we read all this depressing bullshit. And then someone said to me, oh, hey, why don't you pick up Ayn Rand? You're probably really into it. And it changed my life. So that's going to be the future. And that's what we're doing here with your support. And thank you.
And, we should also celebrate, as the year comes to a wrap, all the sort of progress we've seen by objectivists that are not, ARC UK necessarily. So like ARI and OSI both have entered the internet scene in a major way and sort of stepped their game up in a major way. And so there's a lot of good content online.
Ayn Rand Center Latin America also, they're doing great work. Shout out to Maria and Agustina. They're doing Boaz in Israel, the guys in Poland,
in Africa. There's objectivism growing all over the world. It's really exciting.
Yeah, imagine how many local. I know meetups are kind of a thing of the past for the moment, but imagine how many people are sort of connecting with local people that are interested in objectivism that we're not even aware of. So think about how many sort of mini movements are springing up around the world. message to them is look for the best teacher you can. Try to reach out to, bona fide objectivist intellectuals that would be very happy to hear from you, because this is very easy to mess up. If I was Jonathan, I would have used the F word right there. This is very easy to mess up. Philosophy.
And with the clarification, Rucka, that we are not teachers. Right. We try to be some sort of communicators, but there is this division of labor within the movement, which is important. Like
James Valiant from yesterday's live stream, he would be somebody, or an equivalent, another very well-established, seasoned intellectual that has kind of mulled over these ideas for a long time and studied with even more advanced philosophers. Look for the best teacher you can, because this sort of do-it-yourself version of objectivism, it just results in a comment section on the internet. Just look at that and see what you've got in store for you. Did we get all the questions? Oh, Pablo asking what's OSI? Objective Standard Institute. That's one of our sort of sister objectivist satellites, I suppose, or enterprises. So check them out. They're on YouTube and elsewhere as well. Well, we have actually a handful more questions that are not super chat. But I don't know. I'm glad.
Yeah, let's go through them. We told people we'd answer the questions if the rest of the co-hosts have time.
I'm happy to stay, but like I mentioned before the show, if any of you hosts have somewhere to be, then don't feel bad. Just excuse yourself, and that's
it's
cool.
3 hours till the celebration, so we have time. We have.
Okay. Should I look for questions here?
Go for it. Hit it.
All right. We've got. I think I'm looking for question marks. We've got agreed, Jonathan. We've got
these aren't. Yeah.
The West Bank person asked me what I think of Wood, Mr. Wood, who is a former. I don't know who that is. I forget the
Tom Wood. Is it
Tom Wood? Yeah.
Thomas
Do you have
Wood?
any thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on Tom? Because I don't know. That
I like Tom for the most part. I don't like when he brings Michael Malice on the show and they discuss Ayn Rand. I know Michael Malice knows a lot about Ayn Rand. He's writing a book about her, but he's almost completely wrong about her every time I hear him evaluate objectivism. It's like he's transposing his own notion and values onto Rand and then critiquing those instead of her. Tom Woods, though, I think is very good for certain things. The guy's a PhD, Harvard PhD in history. He knows his history. He's a little fringy when it comes to things like states' rights. Like he will actually support John C. Calhoun as an intellectual, which is a little bit scary given the racist, the links to racism of that particular senator. But and he's a little fringy in other ways because he's a bit of an anarchist. I don't know if he's a minarchist or
no, he's full anarchist. He's full anarchist.
Full anarchist. So in that way, you got to take him with a grain of salt. You got to take some of the things he says about history and the Constitution as very interesting. I think he's been very good about the lockdowns. He's brought people in who have statistically analyzed what a failure the lockdowns have been. He's been fighting for reopening the economy. It's just philosophically, he's a devout Catholic, and I think he misses the moral boat like so many libertarians do. But he's valuable. I think he's a person to listen to.
I've actually been to the Tom Wood show, but I think Raj says they're talking about someone else.
It was David Wood, actually. Wood. So strike all that from the record. But by the way, Mark, were you and Michael Malice supposed to have a discussion or debate at some point? I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, and I have to go to New York to do it. He did a comment. I listened to him on that show. What is it? Lex? Is it Lex?
Lex Friedman.
He was on Lex Friedman, and I put his episode on to fall asleep, and it woke up from a dead sleep when he was talking about Ayn Rand, which I thought was interesting, and listened to him just spew a constellation of errors out into the world. And I literally DM'd him right that moment. I said, "You and I got to get together as soon as possible." And he said, "Well, I'm writing a book that strongly features Rand." I said, "Then we got to do it sooner rather than later." So that's supposed to happen. I'm supposed to go to Pittsburgh in March and that's pretty close to New York. I can take my car and drive into New York at some point and go to his studio and hopefully disabuse him of his delusions.
Oh, I didn't know he's operating out of a studio. From what I've seen, he's interviewing people remotely. So maybe you can schedule it sooner than that if you elect to do so.
Maybe he's afraid.
Maybe he doesn't strike me as having that kind of part of the brain of fear.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me that way either. I'm just trying to goad him into something, but he's definitely making me about going into the studio, making a meeting with me about going into the studio. I don't know what that means.
Rucka, were you on Michael Malice's show?
Yeah, I was. And actually, interestingly, I had a conversation with Nikos and Razi, which is going to be online tomorrow. I'm going to post it, in which Nikos confessed that seeing me on Malice's show a couple years ago actually helped Nikos understand with better clarity that Rand and anarchism are very different. And it's always beneficial to kind of see a person sort of spell it out. So I play in my own way. I played a small role in the development of The Last of the Greeks. Pretty nice.
Yeah, I encourage people to watch this out because specifically when he talks to Tom Woods or to other Austro-libertarians, Michael Malice appears as this almost expert in Rand. But it was only when he spoke to Rucka that he got really pushed. Okay, what exactly do you disagree with here? And the more that he would give ground and give ground and give ground, and then it became evident that no, actually he disagrees a lot, or either he doesn't get it, or he gets it and they disagree, which is fine.
I think he doesn't get it. I really don't think I don't think he's stepped outside of his own mental constructs, to be honest with you. I think he's placing around with his own script, his schema inside his head, and manipulating ideas sort of rationalistically. So,
but to answer sorry, go on.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to repeat. I don't think he gets it.
Okay, but to answer to our friends, sorry, I don't know the other Wood.
Oh, okay. I don't know who David Wood is either. But by the way, I mean, to people who think that the difference between anarchism and objectivism is trivial, look at the difference between the way we talk about Trump, a lot of us, or the way we approach politics versus someone like Michael Malice, who seems to love the chaos. He loves seeing this inability of the government to do its job and to kind of to communicate effectively. He loves that Trump makes it impossible for politicians to communicate, because in his mind, the goal is for the government to fall apart so that we can finally be free. I think I'm representing him accurately. So, I mean, it's not trivial. And of course, it comes from a very different root. Our epistemology is individualistic, and the individual can look at the world, has the capacity to be rational and to accurately assess the situation versus other epistemologies which are not so. All right. And again, the West Bank user is asking what I think of David Wood, or what we think. He's a Christian apologist. Now, Christian apologism, it's you didn't have much of that back before the Renaissance, did you? You didn't have a lot of people saying, "Oh, science and the Bible don't necessarily conflict." So the fact that they're apologizing,
can I just say, what are they apologizing for? Can you clear that up? I don't know who this is, but
they're saying we know the Dark Ages went a little bit too far, but it's okay. The Christianity is not that bad. I mean, look, science and Christianity can work together. So they're apologizing for the mysticism, I think. But the fact that they need to reconcile, the fact that compromise, the fact they need to acknowledge that
apologizing for killing Galileo.
The fact that they need to I think they are apologizing for that. The Pope finally apologized around 1950 or 80 for killing Galileo or for arresting him. But anyway, the fact that they need to acknowledge that science is a thing shows you that the Christians of today are not the Christians of St. Augustine's people. So, I mean, that's what I think of Christian apologism. Why stop there? Why not just completely remove all mysticism and have an airtight approach to the world?
I'll take a Christian apologist over a secular skeptic any day of the week. Because they're more integrated. They are still trying to see the world. The skeptic is trying to disintegrate your your capacity to think and know and understand. They're telling you that knowledge is impossible, that knowing reality is impossible. The Christian apologist isn't saying that, so I'll take them any day of the week.
I think I understand what you mean, but I would say it matters what we mean by skeptic, by secular skeptic. If they're like a real skeptic who just refuses to know anything, then of course that person is the worst, and like chaos is coming from that person's ideas. But if they're sort of a guy who calls himself a skeptic and they're sort of just an atheist who doesn't really know what goes in place of religion, and those are the people that tend to be most open to the value-driven individualist message, and you see someone like Yaron Brook, he goes on the Ben Shapiro show. He says that was the worst results he's ever gotten as far as new followers and new fans. So the Ben Shapiro show brought him almost.
And that was unbelievable because he did so well on that show.
Yeah,
it was one of the best shows I'd ever seen.
And they loved it. Like the audience, they said great conversation. But at the end of the day, Ben Shapiro's audience are not looking for a radical new philosophy and a new ethics based in nature, but like the Lex Fridman show and the Dave Rubin show of a few years back is where I think Yaron would say he got most of his new fans from. But
I don't think the skeptics that I'm talking about are even watching Dave Rubin and Lex. I think you just watch my Twitter feed and you'll see real skeptics in action, academics who attack you for certainty and try to undo your connection with reality by claiming there is no such thing, and they do it with a passion. They try to claim that you are a biological, determined being, that you can't step outside of your biology. There's no such thing as free will. I mean, this is all, to me, popular within academia. I think the population at large can call themselves skeptics, and we can make some accommodation for the idea that that's just an active-minded person who's not willing to accept something just on faith, but needs to have proofs. But that's not the skepticism that I come across online at all, by a long shot.
I see what you're saying. Okay,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the type of person I was mentioning earlier. Compare that person to the passionate pursuer of ideas. That's why I'm saying it's so easy to be seductive, intellectually seductive, or maybe not only, when you stand actually for something, as opposed to someone who stands for something. So I get what Mark is saying. I'm not sure how much I agree, but I totally get it, and maybe I agree up to an extent.
I just think that what we share with the Christian apologist is integration. And that might make them a tougher sell, in a way. It may be a tougher nut to crack, but we share nothing with the professional skeptic. Nothing.
I mean, a lot of us who are drawn to objectivism came from a religious upbringing, right? I know that's certainly the case for me. Maybe Nikos as well. You, Mark. So, I mean, religious integration definitely gives you sort of the infrastructure, but we also know that
Marxist integration, Marxism. As a system, Marxism is a very good system. It's rationalistic and wrong, but it's a system. It gives you this certainty of the system. Yeah.
And so the audience understands when you say Marxism, you don't mean today's like hippies with their postmodern gibberish. You're talking about like old school, like systematic Marxism with a full kind of view of the world. So that type of religion is better than nothing. I think Ayn Rand agreed as well, the way she said she could have a better conversation with a Marxist than a hippie. A hippie cannot be reached. So maybe hippies are like the skeptics in this.
I'll say one quote of Ayn Rand's, and I have to figure out where it was. I think it was in, I don't know where it was, but the quote is, "You speak of faith, I have none." I just think of that all the time. I have no faith. I never did. My parents brought me to, religious services as a kid. I said, come on, this is a put on, right? Like, this is all wink, wink, nod, nod, God. And I never believed it for a moment. And I have very little patience for those who do.
But then again, someone tells Rourke, your buildings are religious or something like that. And Rourke gets it. It's not religious, but it's, in a way, it is.
It's important.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
They
at the
stand
end
for
of,
something.
at the end of the day, when I began the show by reading an excerpt about ancient Greece. They did not have a perfect epistemology. There's a lot of imperfect things about them, but they were the first philosophers and the first to seek integration. And that's, integration is the name of the game. So I think there's a lot of merit in Mark's position. That is Mark Pellegrino, not Marx with an X. And although very little is understood or is currently known about what brought about ancient Greece, the phenomenon, I think all signs do point to Homer and the influence of art on the Greeks. And for that, we should always keep in mind Ayn Rand, other romantics are kind of the way to sort of get people listening. I mean, obviously to change people's lives primarily, but if there's any hope of changing their mind about other topics as well, it needs to be by reaching their values. And I think art is an indispensable way to communicate with people.
Well, I'll wrap us up, or I'll wish all of you. I'm actually out of my lemonade here, but I'll wish all of you Happy New Year. Make it an important one. Make it valuable to you. We're not going to get this next year back, so whatever your resolution is, resolve to make it an important and valuable one, and resolve to spend part of it with us here at the Ayn Rand Center UK. And thanks for your support. And let's look forward to a profitable in every way 2021.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Amen. And speaking of amen, we've got amen in the chat room. The guy I ferociously debated here a few weeks back, he says, I would take Aquinas over Hume, meaning he would take an Aristotelian Catholic over a atheist skeptic like David Hume was. And Nikos, Happy New Year.
No, just to say thanks to the audience. When the guy asked about New Year's resolution, something came to my mind because I was discussing it earlier. You people and the audience have given me so many ideas about resolutions. Either it is social media presence or making that Uber University happen. So many things. So I will end with what Mark said: make every day a resolution, or however he put in a better way. That's the thing. The message out there is be weak. The message out there is be sad. The message out there is be a spectator. My message would be the exact opposite, and you're gonna be happy if we have our health. Which is why that's my first and last wish, and that's all from me.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for a great 2020. This is one of, I think, must be our most highly viewed live show of the Daily Objective, maybe. I'm not sure, but certainly I think when I was here. Thank you all for the super chats. Thanks for hooking us up. And thank you for the chatters generally, and all of the viewers and all of the listeners. Thank you all. Looking forward to 2021. Unlike some podcasts, we're going to be here bright and early tomorrow, or whatever time it is in your time zone. Me and Jonathan Hoenig, I believe. We never miss a day of work, guys like us. And, you can sort of see the results in kind of the way we approach life every day. Until tomorrow, have a safe and happy and prosperous, industrious, reasonable, purposeful, and proud New Year's Eve. Thank you and goodbye.
Peace.